Hey, hello everybody. Let's see if the live stream is working nicely. Give me 1 second. Yeah, it looks we are live now. Okay. I'm gonna shut that one down and I'm gonna check here on this section if we can see if somebody is joining the live show. And I'm gonna check. Okay, I need to mute the speaker here. I'm gonna say hello. Okay, well, there's nothing special today planned. My idea is essentially, maybe you have a idea, and in terms of questions. So I think that's a good idea. People sometimes buy the product and then sometimes have a question about a given subject. So I'm going to check here, and I see already somebody joining the chat room. Well, hello there, Pete Wagner. And if you have a typical question, just ask, and I can see what I can do to answer this. Okay, so we have our keyboard is visible here, so you can see me playing. We have currently, I have Go2 open with the big screen version. And I was working a bit on a beat because I thought, yeah, maybe if somebody doesn't watch the live stream, maybe it's nice to really see if I can make a kind of bit of house track. Just starting doing presets from scratch. Okay, somebody is talking about Blade. Yeah, Blade is of course a very different synthesizer by all means, because essentially if you have waveforms, if you go now to Blade, let's select Blade here. So I need to go up here. Instead of RG, let me see, just create a new track, add instruments, and I pick here, let's see, here we have Blade, add track, and there we have Blade. Okay, let's close that one, always on top. So the difficult thing with Blade is the harmonics. You can see them here in the spectrum display. You can see even change them here. And the point is, it doesn't analyze a waveform or that you can, just like Predator 2, you can have your own harmonics and tune them. Of course, in a future update of Blade 2, we make it the option that you also each individual harmonic could tune. So if you go here to a default preset, let's pick a default preset. You see down here in the display dynamic, it's a very thin sound. It's a saw waveform, and if you want to go from saw waveform to a square waveform, in the Blade, you don't have really a waveform like a traditional waveform. You need to make it here. So for instance, you have the odd and even balance, and you need to go to only odd harmonics. And if you only have odd harmonics, you have a square waveform. So let's go back here, this fader. Okay, let me close this one. It's only distracting. So here we have this harmonic where you control the waveform. So when I go back, you hear the saw waveform. So essentially what you do is then dynamically change the harmonics. And the way you can do it is by using a ripple. So using a ripple here, and then you have the ripple width. You see the ripple down here. So it's a very different concept than essentially any other synthesizer which has additive synthesis. So we essentially combine subtractive, because you see you have an amp section, you have a filter section, but the whole waveform is a dynamic changeable waveform, and the only way to do this is by using harmonics and using partials. So there is no other way you could do it. And essentially, as mentioned in the chat, it's the same system as the harmonics, for instance, which this K5000 Hz, which has the build-ups of harmonics. Or if you would go, for instance, to Predator 2, you can see the same system. Only the way you treat here the waveform is different. So you see this is a ripple, and the ripple width you can control. The only point is, of course, the results in sound. Yeah, it's a matter of trial and error. So and now these parameters here, they can be modulated by using this XY pad. So if I use now open here in the controls the ripple in the Y movement and the ripple in the X movement, these parameters are modulated. And of course this is a matter of trial and error, so it's a very different approach. But it would be nice if you have also another approach, so that you, instead of having the waveforms and modulating the waveforms, that you can edit them like in Predator 2 with the harmonics, or that you analyze a waveform and then edit them with the typical modulations which we add now on the waveform. So this is the ripple. So see, this ripple is not always a good parameter to modulate. It depends. So this is static. Now this is, by the way, the range, how much harmonics you have, the volume. This is the symmetry. Yeah, and then you have timbre, and timbre is a bit of preset. So if you go to the right here, you have here some timbre. These are different basic waveforms. You see them, also the construction is different. So this is a bit comparable to a waveform which you have, for instance, in Predator 2. So, and if I use this one, I still can use the ripple on it, or change the odd even. Let's see. The bass harmonics you still can change. And also what is cool, you can have between this waveform, which is more a preset waveform, so the timbre, and what you have as a bass. So if I have the bass here, odd, and this is a bit better useful. So because I find this waveform pretty digital, and when I go to the left with timbre, if it's too much of a saw wave, so if you have this as in the middle, odd even, you have more saw wave, and I don't like that in combination. So I put this one to odd harmonics only. So, and a way to make presets. So if you have this, for instance, as a bass sound, you can change the bass harmonic. You see that down here. You see also what happens in the waveform. And then now by, let's see, if these harmonics volume I need to open, kind of disbalance. So by just changing these parameters here, I can see which one are interesting to modulate by the XY. So this I found interesting, so I say this one. It's a bit like a high pass filter. Now I can record this. And now of course we have the amp section. I can make it loop. And of course it's a matter of trial and error. Blade is really not so much a synth which you can say, okay, now I'm going to make this sound. It's trial and error. It's far more experimental, but that makes that you get sometimes totally off-planet sound. So if I'm gonna edit here a bit more. Now it sounds a bit thin, so what I could do is add spread, make the sound a bit fuller. I can change the octave. You can hear it, it's very different in sound. I can see if I can make the tempo a bit different. Make it half bar, sync to, let's say, 2 bars. And of course, while using FX makes that you can finish off the sound, so you could add a bit of chorus. And a tape delay. So yeah, Pete Wagner, so about Blade, and in the future Blade 2, sure, we need to see that people can import or analyze their own waveforms, just like it is possible with Spread to 2. And then still you can, on this imported waveform, you can use this control, this harmonic control, so with ripple dynamic changes, or change the odd even dynamically. So now by just throwing a bit around the sounds you can hear. Now I have a basic waveform. Let's see what happens if I take another type of waveform. Sorry, another type of filter. This is a Vox filter. So now. So now from scratch you see you got a very different sound, but it's a trial and error synthesizer from that perspective. The good thing is of course that we have a lot of presets. If you go to the Bank Manager, you can see that we have all kind of presets on board. And just by changing the harmolator, you make already some interesting different sounds. So it's a different synth. It has its own league of fans, which people like it, and very often they use it also because some of the presets are so different and so different from all the other synthesizers. But for sure, in the future we are looking into making a Blade 2 and having a bit more control about the harmonics, so that you also, what you can see in the spectrum analyzer, that you can change the harmonics yourself, just like you are being able to do in Predator 2. Okay. Okay, I'm checking the chat. Well, there are not really new future sounds of questions coming in. I was trying a bit of to see if I could make a kind of from bass a techno track. Of course, my music background is not typically house or dance orientated, and so I thought, yeah, why not make from start somehow a track. So I would start then now with it's just a little beat with punch, using punch in the background. Let's see what we can do with from start. So simply basic default sound. Okay, the chord mode is very nice. So we have here in the play mode, we can use a chord, and let's take, okay, record this. Okay, let's see. So this is the sound. I had a stretch sound from default. I picked in play mode -7. Okay, now Let's close that one, and if it's correct, it's recorded here inside Cubase. I put quantize, and let's see what we have here. And I copy, of course, this little part to the start and see if it still fits. Not sure if the timing is right. Let's move it a bit. It's still a very silly sound, but let's show you how you can easily make a sound far more interesting. So I copy this part, so it's a continuous playing sound. It's a default sound, -7. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna put the filter down, use an envelope, volume a bit back. So you have a little groove. Now, of course, I noticed that the groove stops too early. So I need to do this again. Let's see, why does it stop? Most likely start should shift 1 bar. Yes, here we go. So making a minimal house type of stuff, whatever. So it's still a track from a default preset. Let's go to. I open again. Go to now. So now I could use, for instance, the high pass filter to this kind of effect. And this you can record as a parameter in your music host, or you can say, I go to the modulation matrix and you pick here then the modulation wheel as source, destination, you pick the high pass filter, frequency, and you open the amount. And now I can use, if you can see it up here, now this I use as a bass. I will tweak the sound a bit more later on. Let's see if we can put in a bass sound. This is Predator 2. For bass we might pick a sub-boom bass. Here we have sub-boom bass, always on top. And what you can do if you're making a track, and maybe you want to have in this track a kind of sub-low bass. You can go from one preset to another. Okay, sub basses. That will be an option. Or go to the classic bassing. Okay. Maybe this is something I could use. Of course, then I need to play record and see if I can play a groove with that. let's see how that works. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Of course I need to spot this part. Here is this bass. Now it jumps out of the screen. Okay, let's see if we can use this one. And we go then back to the other go-to. So this is of course a preset, so this bass I did not make from scratch. I simply picked one of the many good presets on board of Sub Bass 2. So okay, let's see if I can repeat this one as a bass groove. And you still can add it, so let's see. Okay, well, this is okay. Now I go back to Sub Bass 2. Now I can see I have no FX is active now, so no chorus, which is I think nice. What you always can do for making some timing a bit tighter is just experiment a bit with the amp section of Sub Bass 2 and change the decay and release. You see, this is a very different feel to the bass now, short of long decay. So change the decay and release a bit. This way it fits a bit better in the groove. So when I press here original, you can see up here original, I have the original preset. So this was the original one. And I tweaked in the amp section the decay and release to make it groove more. So when I click here up to edit, you hear again the editing what I did. It's a very dark bass, but that's what I like. Okay, so I have a bass now in this little track, and then I go back again to go to. So what we could do is add the phaser for giving it a bit of movement. Let's see what happens. Now makes it a bit louder, so go down. And let's see what happens if I use delay. It makes a nice swing thing. Of course, again, I'm not a house producer or make any house dance track. I'm just fiddling around to show you what you can do yourself. So this is the sound, and what I did from this default preset, I also used the high pass filter, and this one I can record now. So I go over this track again, so let's go to the start. And then I'm going to record. And one trick what I often use is, you see here go to, it's in this track, and then I use add instrument, and then it adds a MIDI, no, wrong, add MIDI, sorry. Then it adds with the same instrument a MIDI track below it, and in this MIDI track I could record on the modulation wheel. And the modulation wheel, you will notice, it opens the high pass filter, so let's record that. Okay, and we're gonna open it. So you see a very simple stretch from scratch sound. Already is very nice. Another trick what you can do, which is nice with GoTo, is for instance that you use the modulation wheel. Pick it here up again, and use this one to control, for instance, from the FX, from the delay, the feedback makes it longer. And I pick again the modulation wheel, and I select from the FX again the mix so the delay mix. So if I open now the modulation wheel, you hear longer feedback and more delay in volume. Let's see how that works in this little piece. So now the modulation wheel goes open. Let's see if you can see it here. Here is the modulation wheel. Now it's back again. So I push again a recording, and down here you can. Oh no, you don't see that on your screen. Sorry. I put it up. Here's this little track with the lane of the modulation wheel. Recording it now, and then you see. Some very nice dynamic changes to the sound just by only using Go 2 with the built-in FX, and by using the modulation wheel, which is controlling the delay mix, the delay feedback, and the high pass filter. Okay, in the meantime, I'm checking the chat room. Well, today are not so many people checking the live stream. I think it's down to the fact that we are having still a holiday season, and of course it will be a bit busier when we next month in September, hopefully end of September, have 2 new products which he can show you, which are going to be released together with the Explorer 5 bundle. Okay, so now in Go 2 you see, maybe people don't know this, if you go here, if you like more dials instead of the graphic envelopes, you can also pick dial envelopes. Then dials appear down here. So now by changing, for instance, in Go 2, I have the phaser active, I have the high pass filter active on the modulation wheel. Yeah, you still also can change the envelopes. Let's see what that does to the sound. Let's see, make it shorter. Was better. So as it was before was better. So these envelopes have a lot of influence on this sound. Still see we also have a chorus option here. Of course we also have the option to do here some other stuff. I could pick here a different waveform. Let's see what happens. Quite minimal changes to the sound, but it can be cool. So the cool thing about Go 2 is that it's very user friendly. Everything is in front, and you can do very fast sound editing. So this is a nice sound in this little thing. Of course we can add something else to it. Okay. I don't have to ask a question. Yeah, you don't need to have a question. I just will fiddle around with this the thing here, and then in the meantime, maybe you think, okay, that's a nice idea to do, and I pick here another instrument, pick again, Go 2, because show that you can do from scratch a lot of stuff. Or let's do this from Predator 2. Why not? Well, just pick Predator 2, and where is it? Oh no, I Here is it. And also here we have, of course, the Bank Manager examples default. Okay, let's see what happens here. It's a sinus waveform default. So let's see if we can do some more noise too. It's in G. Okay. That's not very exciting. Just okay. That's an arpeggiator playing now. I'll have the option to do key entry and let's see what happens. I play a few notes. Of course, when I use key entry down here, always take C as a root key, otherwise you are transposing the melody. Of course, I can glide. Let's see, put a bit of glide. I go to special mode. Maybe half bar. Let's try half bar. No, that's no good. So this is a bit TB03-like. Changing the filter a bit. Filter envelope. See, that's a different type again. Now the modulation wheel I could use. Still dry. Here I could use a mono delay. I pan the mono delay to the other side. Now I change the amp section. So now you have very long note. Just so it's a bit TB. I'm just fiddling around. A bit of TB303 type of sound, and I'm not sure if the mix of this thing I'm making now is a bit okay. It's a bit too loud, I think. But it can fit. So you see, even from start, you can do some. Very fast, some very interesting things. Inside the other option we could have, now I'm playing sequence, but when I go to command here, I can say, okay, reset up A, then it's totally reset. Then it's again tick, 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 and I can use chord mode. With chord mode I always like. And what I can do now is play a chord. Okay, let's go back now and play it here inside the sequencer. You see here is just a few rows with this modulation wheel, and go to, and then down here we have only a few tracks with punch for the drums. So Predator 2. Let's see, you need to wait on the So okay, now you see in Cubase, it's just a chord. So what I do now, I quantize this, and then I cut this a bit. Oops, it jumps over the place here. I move it to this section, and if I'm not wrong, it plays now one chord at the start, and essentially it should repeat itself. So which, if you record such a chord and you want to repeat it, you need to see, you see down here, that at the end it doesn't go beyond the bar. So I can make it even move a bit more, but it should not pass it. So now it simply triggers a chord. It's just one plain chord. Okay, I copy this over. So now it's of course not very interesting, but then comes the trick. So you see, this is the chord now playing, and what I can do now is put steps, and suddenly you got a rhythm. Now velocity here. You can add a bit of swing. Now velocity, if you change the velocity needs to be active also on volume in the amp section to hear it active on the volume, and of course here on the filter. So I need to open velocity. Okay, this is interesting. This is the sound which I made now with Predator 2 and using the Aperturator in chord mode. So if I put off the Aperturator by simply, you see my keyboard, it's simply, of course you also can play it yourself, this kind of groove, but the fun part with a sequencer, you sometimes run into stuff which you don't play, and that's the reason why I use the Aperturator here now. Can also put off the first step. Now let's make this sound a bit different. Now you have suddenly a percussive sound. Okay, let's put a reverb on it. I'm just fiddling around, guys. Now there's reverb on this sequence, but what I could do is shut down the mix and use the free row here to control this reverb. So I push up here the values and I go to the modulation matrix and say step 1, pick the up free row and control the FX, second one the mix. You hear that? It starts to groove. Of course you can adjust the reverb, put back a bit of So now I made from scratch another Predator 2 sound, which is nice for this group. Again, I'm not making a track. I'm just fiddling around with sound, making a bit on a groovy or a bit housey beat. So from the start, what I had now is no, sorry. Go to now if you continues, but that's of course with a track you need to put on off things and that kind of things. So that's what yeah, I mean, it's that's on the live stream today. I had the option for if you have a question, and if there were no questions, I just was fiddling around from scratch with the synthesizers. And okay, let's see the chat room. If anybody has a question, so if you have a question, so we still have about 15 minutes, just let me know. Yeah, somebody says you make really good synths for any kind of music. Yeah, essentially, I mean, a synthesizer, it's the person behind it which makes that you create the music. So, of course, with some music styles, let's say hardcore dance or hardstyle, they use a lot of distortions, stuff that, for instance, the bands like Noisia makes, or DJ Promo, or the player, the Ophidian, they make very much use of distortion. And so then a traditional synth needs an additional effects section with distortions. Therefore, we created Raw, which has the focus on distortion. But essentially, a synthesizer, any synthesizer which is good, can be used for any kind of music. Of course, not for that's doing classical music or brass music. That's of course another thing. But in general, a synthesizer, a good synthesizer, is useful for any kind of music. I myself make electronic music, a bit classic synthesizer music, and of course we use a lot of our plugins as well. And it's how you make the sound. So let me give you an example with one preset, which is a very classic analog style preset. Okay, I could use this one, the Spreader 2, and this one I recently used in a track. So when I go to the manager, there's this ambient bank, and there you have Mellow Carpet, which is a very soft pad sounding which you still can use also in other piece of music, maybe a ballad, or just as a background pad sound for commercial sound. So it's a very mellow sounding. So this is more a pad from the classic 70s, 80s maybe, but the sound works and will still work also in the future. So it's a kind of classic sounds. And the cool thing what you can do yourself is, for instance, if you make ambient music, you often use very long releases and slow attacks. So I can change here in the amp section the release and the attack and make it. See, it goes very long, and we have one section here. If you see, if you go to the advanced chord section, you see that the decay release, you can change it here. I even could make it the case that it goes to 0. Then you have a linear envelope, decay and release, which is essentially for pads very nice. Very spacey sound. But yeah, that's the cool thing. And of course, the more features a synthesizer has in terms of effects and additional features, the more you can cover in terms of styles of music. Okay, I'm checking the chat room if there's maybe any other question popping up. So we were active by making a bit of groovy stuff with the with using punch, and I recently used one of these sounds in my own track. one where the XY essentially makes the sound really wobbly moving, a bit like a sidechain. Let's see if that works with the track that I have now. Hey, it works. So this is just one of the presets, Flumi side pad number 10. Could record it. I of course need to play the right notes. So just 2 notes, okay. 2 of them were good, the other ones were not good, so I'll delete them. So you get a typical sound. Okay, my voice was gone because I had a solo going on, so it's this sound. And let's go back. You can use it more as an accent sound, and you see the movement of the XY, which is connected to the filter and the volume. Okay, it takes a while before it kicks in. Down here, maybe you can see it. No, you can see it. Here it comes down in the lowest section. Here it comes. Second one was not so good, but I like the first one. So what I could do is simply delete this note. Oops, doing something wrong. Here it is, okay. And here it comes. Here's this note. Okay, let's start a bit earlier. 73. And play it again, the sound. And what maybe would be nice, because you see one preset you also can use as a kind of breaky sound, so that it's a nice texture at a given moment. Here it comes. Now it has a stereo delay, but maybe it's also nice to give it a nice reverb. Okay, let's give it a nice reverb, because Predator 2 has the algorithm of ARP reverb, so very high quality reverb. It doesn't break down the sound, it makes it even better. So let's see what happens if this sound, which this pad sound, if it also goes into a bit of reverb. So as you hear it, okay, maybe it's even more. Let's put a bit more mix reverb. Play it again. Okay, you hear it in the reverb. But that's also what you can do on your own. If you have a nice preset, just put another FX on it or put an FX off. So it's yeah, there's so many options which are possible. So in the meantime, I have a little bit of a track housey type of thing. I don't know how to call it. And I used some presets like this one from Predator 2, but I adjusted the reverb, and it's my kind of FX sound inside of it. And yeah, on top of that, you can have samples of your own. You could increase the percussion. I'm not using that much percussion, I think. In this case it's punch, which I use for the drums. It's this kick drum here. The kick drum you see is a model, it's not a sample, it's really a drum synth model, and we have inside each pad we have also distortion, so I could add now a bit of, so make the bass drum a bit more dirty. Sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of edge. All kind of percussion. So what some people don't know with punch is that if you have, for instance, here sample, then you can pick one of these samples, but we have many presets for each pad. So up here you can see we have all kind of presets where we already made some sound for you. China Dive, let's check that one out. Sound effect. If you go to claps, you can make here your own clap by editing and a synth model, but also here we have presets. So here you could take punch 12, different type of clap. I'm not sure if I'm using a clap in this track. Let's see if I can unmute this track thing. Okay, see what happens here. Sometimes the clap, I could do it manually, but just by going here, you select the clap. Here you pick it, you select this is the button for editing, and you pick a different one. See up here are for each preset. So from that point there are many, you have of course a drum kit inside Punch, but there are many presets on each individual pad. Cowbells, conga, and simply pick here one of the presets. Let's see what this is. Sound effects. Okay. Another trick which is nice, which people forget, is the easy pad. So if I have this groove now, going back to can do some weird stuff here. How much sounds are active, double click goes back. Here's a cowbell. Let's put it a bit louder. So this fader in the easy page changes all the sounds which are sample based. So if I change this, you don't hear the kick change because the kick is synthesis. Now if I change here synth pitch, the kick changes because the kick is a synthesizer. Goes down. So depending on which sound you're using, of course, it's pretty minimal what I'm doing now with Sponge in this track. So this is also synthesis. So yeah, you need to experiment with Sponge, with the Easy Page. Just take one of the okay, I can show it with this sequence. That's a good point, because the first two octaves, if you see in the upper left corner, you see the first 24 keys are all the drum single sounds. But if you go from C3 up to G5, the sequencer starts to play, which uses these sounds. So you hear now it can make some odd sounds just by using a preset. I'm not sure if this works now with the track. Oh, actually very nice. So I totally messed up this preset by using the Easy Page. And of course now I miss the steady bass drum. And that's a trick which is also inside Sponge, because maybe you think, okay, this is cool, this Easy Page, but I don't want to change my bass drum. I want to keep that one steady. Well, there's a solution for it. If you go to the bass drum, you select it and you say Easy Page bypass, and then the Easy Page, which is here, doesn't change it. So you see the bass drum is the same. Can do some very weird stuff, and just pick one of the original presets. So and just edit the Easy Page, play around with it. Okay, yeah guys, thank you for watching. Next week, if everything goes well, there will be of course another live stream. Most likely I will, because we have now in August the Predator month, maybe I will do another Predator to live stream about the advanced mode in the Modulate, which is here. If you go to the Modulation section, you have also an advanced mode, which is very exciting. You can do some very cool stuff with it. And maybe it's good that next week I talk again about Predator 2 and these very deep features inside this synthesizer. So yeah, if you maybe join later, this live stream will be in the playlist live stream, so you always can look it back and check out the things I did today. Okay, thank you for watching and see you next time.